Looks like we are on.
Awesome.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. This is Yoftahe Mulatu coming live on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Tonight is our Wednesday show. Let me see what we have quickly. Just checking in. Okay, so today I bring you a very inspiring person to my life that I have met, and through his podcast and teaching that he does, we all go through tough times. We all go through different struggles. He has a book that he has written. We will talk about those in details, and I love storytelling. He's a great, great, great storyteller. So we will be able to walk today. So stay with us, post, share, and we're hoping, just Jose and I always say, if you can heal one person, if one person can hear the story and be healed and helped, it's definitely what we are all looking for. And I guarantee you, if you stay with us for the show, there'll always be someone who's going to be inspired and say, I can do that too. Anybody that's going through a struggle, today, Jose is going to be able to help you, to give you a way. Any kind of struggle that you have is going to be able something that you can, as long as you use the right mind, how we will be able to conquer it. So let's get started. Jose Flores, it's an honor to have you here, brother. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and welcome to the Yoftahe show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you for having me, man, and allowing me to inspire and impact your audience. I'm ready to have a good time with you, man. But yeah, you know, I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York. I had a great childhood. Was able to walk and run and do all the things that healthy young boys do. And when I was 3 years old, I had gotten. My mom took me to the doctor because I had like a little tough guy walk. Everybody was like, "Oh, look at him! He looks so cute. He walks like a little tough guy." And it was cute for a little while, but then my mom noticed that the little limp wasn't going away. So she took me to the doctor. We got some tests run. I did a muscle biopsy, and I got diagnosed with a neuromuscular condition called spinal-muscular atrophy. And basically what that does is the older I get, the weaker my muscles get. And so you can imagine, you know, as a young boy, your parents are being told that you have this condition. I was too young to really know what it was. And as I got older, you know, when I was in elementary school, I felt a little bit of it present, but not too much. And that's when my mom started explaining to me, you know, what it was that I had, my condition. And then when I got to high school, man, that's when it really got tough for me. Cause you know, being born and raised in the Bronx, New York, you kind of like forced into developing that tough skin, you know? And so, and so I'm grateful that I was born there, because that helped me to develop the tough skin that I was going to need for the latter part of my life, which is what I'm living now. And I don't say that in a demeaning way or condescending way, because like I said, you hear me say it on my podcast all the times, man, I'm living my best life now because I'm fearless, right? I am fearless and I'm unstoppable. And I say that with all humility, not that, you know, because we get fear. A lot of times we get fear misconstrued with what that word really means. But, you know, going back to me growing up, it started kicking in high school. And we all know how high school is. You know, you're trying to figure out what you want to do with yourself, figure out who you are, what you want to become, where you want to go, and things as such. And for me, man, I wasn't even thinking about a career or college or future. I was in survival mode, right? The doctors had told me when I was younger that I'd be in a wheelchair by the age of 15, and they weren't even expecting me to live past my teenage years. And so, through the grace of God, man, I'm excited because this year I celebrated my 43rd birthday. In February of next year, I'll be celebrating my 44th birthday. So every year that I'm alive, man, is a big deal for me because of what they told me when I was younger. Obviously, we all know that we have a greater God, a greater physician, right? Jehovah, Jesus, right? And he had a different plan for my life, which I'm so grateful for. And I defied the odds, right? He had another plan for me, and I'm still here, still kicking. Other than this condition, I'm in great health. No blood pressure, no cholesterol, and which is surprising because I'm Puerto Rican, and we know we like eating that pork and all those pork chops and all that fried food, right? But my wife is vegan, so we try to stay as healthy as possible because I'm trying to live to at least 100 years old.
I hear you. We'll be talking about wife a little bit down the road. Just getting into it because I love stories and then how we share them. For me or for anybody else looking at you, they're going to look at, what you just said right now, I'm living my best life. And people might be confused saying like, he's in a wheelchair. What is he talking about? So compared to what you were, let's say, you were 22, 21 when you...
22 years old, yeah.
So before that, you were able to walk, you were able to do certain things. And as you know, things progressed. So for someone who's struggling, for someone who's going through, listening through the show, when they hear you say, I'm living my best life, we always try to compare it to something that we feel like I have two legs, I have two hands, I'm able to move it, to do that. So how do you connect those for people who do not understanding? What do you mean by when you say I'm living my best life?
Well, when I was younger and my body was going through the shifting, which was a very difficult time for me, in high school is when my body started to give up on me. So from like 11th grade till 22 years old, when I lost my ability to walk, those were very difficult years for me because that's when things started to get difficult for me mobility wise. It started to become more difficult for me to sit and stand, go up and down the steps, just even get dressed, put my pants on, put my shirt on, things like that. It started to get more difficult as the time went on. So when I was younger, I was living a defeated life. I was living a life of fear. I was living I had so many limiting beliefs about myself. And I was always thinking that I would never do anything great and I would never amount to anything and that I would just be staying, living with my parents for the rest of my life because no woman would love me like this. And I've really felt like damaged goods. I was upset with God. I was upset with my parents. I was just upset with a lot of different things. And it was a tough time for me. So when I say I'm living my best life now, what I mean by that is that I'm living in freedom because even though some people may look at me and see that my body is trapped, right? My body is stuck. My body is in what some may say in a prison, right?
Yep.
I'm locked up almost physically wise, but I'm so free mentally, man. Like my mind is so free. I'm so positive. I have a great personality. I love to laugh. I love to have a good time. I love to inspire and impact people. And because I've been able to develop that mindset that says, I'm not going to let this defeat me. I'm not going to let this wheelchair define me. And I'm not going to let this wheelchair dictate my destiny. That's what I mean when I say I'm living my best life now, because now I really do anything I want to a certain extent, obviously, because there are some physical restrictions, but I've been parasailing, scuba diving, all different types of crazy activities that most people would look at me and say, no, you can't do that, but I've done it.
So you talked about it, the mind shift could be your leg, the definition of who we are. Am I a heart? Am I a hand? But as long as you have that sharp mind that you're able to use to exercise. So if you can tell us, what does it mean having a positive mind? Because the mind is a powerful tool that we have, and we can defeat ourselves by just telling ourselves every single time, I can't. So when was that shift from you at a moment, if you can talk a little bit, where you felt like I'm in a wheelchair, I'm going to end up living with my mom, there's nothing I can do, to, oh no, I can do something? How did that shift, and when did you start connecting that?
Well, it all started when I was around, I would say 24 years old, even probably 23 years old, because it was shortly after I ended up in a wheelchair. So I ended up in a wheelchair 22, probably in 23, turning 24. I was collecting disability checks, and I got to a point where I was like, man, how can anybody live off of a measly, $850 a month? And I was like, there got to be something better than life than just getting this check, right? So I said, I got to go and try to get a job. So I went out and I got a job, and I got hired for this. I used to work for a market research company. And I was with them for about 2 years, 3 years. And then I transitioned from there to working in corporate America. And that's where I really kind of felt like got in my mojo a little bit, because corporate America, I did sales, phone sales, customer service, retention, all different types of positions. And I was really good at it, right? I couldn't use my body physically, right? I was like, I can't move my hands. I can't use my arms. I mean, I can move them, but I can't move them like I would want to.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm going to use my voice. And, being from New York, I automatically got the gift of gab. So I'm on the phone with people, closing deals, making sales. And I worked in corporate America for 20 years. And just 3 years ago, I finally spread my wings. I was working for this one company for 7 years, and they wound up doing some layoffs. And I was, one of the ones that they laid off. And but I was grateful for that, because that's what, I felt like God was pushing me into my entrepreneurial journey. And here I am 3 years later, doing it full time. And like I said, enjoying life.
I like that. So with that, what I would like to ask, like when I looked at you, I said, you have a story. So this is what we are here to talk about. I look at the wheelchair and I look at it as if like wheelchair is something limiting you. But you have a way of talking about what your wheelchair has done, or how it helped you to propel, or the curiosity that's adding for people. So tell me how you connect your wheelchair, how you use it. And me, when I look at it as a limitation, you have been able to tell the story about your wheelchair for something actually to do a greater good.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was, when I first got into the wheelchair, man, I was embarrassed. I was like in denial. I didn't even want to accept the wheelchair. And actually, before I got in the wheelchair, I was in such denial that I actually rode around in like a little 3-wheel scooter, like the ones you see at Walmart. But I had a nice, cool red and black one with some rims. But I was in denial, and I didn't want to ride in a wheelchair. I just felt like a wheelchair was for people who couldn't walk. And even though I couldn't at the time, I just wasn't accepting of it. And so, man, I hid many years of my life. I hid from going out, and I missed out a lot on life because I was so afraid of what people would, think of me, what people would say, people's opinions. And, as you grow up and you get older and you get more wiser and more mature, and you start to understand and realize and to really understand the concept of what's going on, you start to, well, for me anyhow, because not everyone's like me, but for me anyhow, I started to build this courage and this boldness, and I started to step outside of my comfort zone, and I started to go out and experience life. And once I started doing that, I was like, man, this feels amazing. This feels good. I've been missing out. And it got to a point where I didn't want to miss out anymore on life. And so that when I made that decision, man, that changed my life forever, because now, like you said, I'm able to use my wheelchair. What was once what I looked at as a weakness is now a strength for me. And I use it as leverage to get into certain doors that maybe the average person can't get into. But it's also like, I've seen it also, Yoftahe, that the wheelchair has also blocked me from getting into certain doors as well. So it's almost like a double-edged sword. Like some people will see me and see the wheelchair and automatically disqualify me just based off of appearance. But then other people will see me, get to know me, and see how I'm intelligent, I'm educated, I'm well-spoken, and then say, I want to know more about this guy, and open the door wide open. And so now I use it as an advantage. I have a pretty cool one. It elevates 12 inches. So I get to sit up high and look people eye to eye. And so whenever I'm out in the street, it's a talking point. And people are always like, oh man, I never seen a chair like that. Or, oh man, that's so cool. Or, oh man, you got lights or your rims, or they try to make a joke about it, but it becomes a talking point. And then when I get to talking with them and they understand like who I am and what I do, it changes the whole dynamic. I've even seen people's demeanors change like right before my eyes, like from one of like, this guy has to be incapable or incompetent to like, oh my gosh, this guy is really a superstar. And so I learned how to use it as leverage now, man.
I like that. Actually, like you bring us to the next question. So as humans, like we have this tendency when we look at someone, call it like consider it a disability or wheelchair or other thing, and we right away we shifting into this, call it feeling sorry for the other person, and we don't really truly engage with that person. So to open up our eyes, or for someone, how is it you want someone to approach you? Because sometimes it could be we don't feel comfortable maybe asking. So what's the appropriate way of asking? What is an appropriate way for people that they want to start that dialogue, so that they don't have to be intimidating, or they don't have to feel sorry for you, because you are doing, like you said, living your best life. But I'm already assuming just because you're on a wheelchair, your life should be a sorry life. So for someone who's looking just at a wheelchair, how do you help them to get past that's just a visual thing that they see? There is more from what they see.
That's a great question, man. And I've never been asked that question, but I love that question, because the reason I'm smiling as you're asking that question is because I can tell you right up front, the first thing that you don't want to do to someone that you see has any type of uniqueness to them is ask them what's wrong with you. When people ask me that, it does something to my blood that it makes it boil. And I'm like, what do you mean what's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? So don't ask somebody what's wrong with you, because there's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with us. Your perception of us may look like something's wrong with us, but there's really nothing wrong with us, because just because I don't have the ability to use my body faculties like someone else may, doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me.
No.
It just means that I have to live a different type of life from you. That's all it means, is that we're all different, right? It's just like when you, like the whole racial thing, right? When you see blacks and whites, it's like, oh, well, they're black, something's wrong with them. Or he's Spanish, something's wrong with them, right? There's nothing wrong with being unique or being different. And I love that message, because when people understand that, they embrace whatever struggles they're going through, right? When you can understand that you're unique, and like I always say, my uniqueness is that I'm in a wheelchair, right? My struggle is that I'm in a wheelchair. But your struggle, you're not in a wheelchair, but you may have a struggle that's invisible, right? Maybe, and I'm not saying you specifically, but I'm just saying anybody in general that we see, like maybe they suffer with mental illness, or maybe they have depression or anxiety or low self-esteem or low confidence. No one can see that, right? Unless they share that with you. But we all have a struggle. And that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. That just means that you're dealing with a situation that you need to figure out how to get over and how to overcome. And sometimes, you know, it's easier to overcome some struggles than others. And sometimes certain struggles take a little longer to overcome. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. You take as much time as you need, but understanding that you don't want to take forever, because the more time you waste feeling sorry for yourself or letting that struggle dominate your life, the more time you're wasting missing out on life.
Yes. No, I like that. Like you said, it's just sometimes the awkwardness comes, and then instead of having a real conversation with the person, people are focused on what. And then the way I see it is like, because I'm looking at it as a limitation, because I said, oh, if I was on a wheelchair, I cannot do A, B, C, D. Instead of just coming and asking you, you're on a wheelchair, what are you able to do so that I can be inspired and walk through it right away? I block everything without asking your story. I make up a story that I'm not even qualified to do. So that's why just wanted to make sure people need to go past that and ask with respect.
Well, yeah. Well, to answer your question, the proper way to ask somebody who looks different is just to ask them straight up, like, "Hey, excuse me, do you mind if I ask what happened to you?" And then that opens the door for them to either say yes, you can, or no, right? It's either yes or no. But that's the proper way to ask. You ask somebody like, "Hey, can I ask you a question? Do you mind if I ask what happened to you?" Then obviously you approach the situation properly, and then more than likely they're going to say, yeah, you know, this and this and this is what happened, right? They'll go ahead and share with you. But when you just come out and say, hey, what's wrong with you? I was like, all right, you want to fight me now? Those are fighting words.
So I like that. So I like from your podcast, storytelling is a powerful tool that you always share. So if you can tell us a little bit about a story that really resonated with you, especially, I mean, from one of you have it on the book, and also I think a story. Is it the blue? What is it called? The
blue hole in Jamaica.
The blue hole. If you can tell us a little bit about, because the power of one, you talk also very powerfully, and now one, I really love that story. So if you can share how it was and how it happened at that moment, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my wife and I, we have 2 children together, and we love going on. We live in South Florida, so that's like we have 2 cruise ports, one in Fort Lauderdale, one in Miami. So we love taking cruises. We've been on several cruises all over the Caribbean, and so we went to Jamaica. This place called the Blue Hole. If you've never been there, you can YouTube it. It's absolutely phenomenal. There's 2 of them, but you have to go to the one that's in Ocho Rios, Jamaica. And so I'm already used to going on vacation and sometimes having to stay back with certain excursions because it requires a certain level of physical mobility that I obviously can't do. So I'm already used to sitting back sometimes and just kind of watching my family have fun. And I'm okay with that, because as long as I know my family's having a good time and they're experiencing life and living life to the full, then that gives me joy and that gives me happiness. But there's one particular time when we went to the Blue Hole. In order to get to the Blue Hole, you had to go down this real steep hill, climb over rocks and fallen trees. And it was like you're really in a forest. And it was a natural spring. And so they have like this little observatory deck that you can sit at and kind of watch. So I was like, okay, well, I'm in my manual wheelchair at this point. So I'm like, I'm just going to go and sit and watch. So as my family's getting ready to go and take this little trek down the mountain, or actually it was like down and then up because they wanted to get to the top of the spring. This one local comes up to me, a young guy, and he's like, "Hey man, would you like to get into the water?" And I'm kind of laughing like, yeah, I would love to get into the water, but how do you suppose I get there? And he just looked me straight in my eye, man, so serious, and he was like, "I'll carry you." And I was like, "Wow, you'll carry me?" I was like, "Now I'm 6 feet, 155 pounds dead weight, right?" And this man is telling me that he's willing to carry me. So I'm like, man, if this guy is willing to carry me, then hey, I'm willing to go. If you're willing, I'm willing, man. Let's go together. So he carries me on his back like a piggyback. And I have pictures of this too. And I should post it on social media since we've been talking about this a couple of times recently. But I have pictures of him carrying me on his back. And his partner was carrying my wheelchair, the manual wheelchair that folds up, because I said, hey, listen, bring the wheelchair in case you get tired or you get fatigued. I don't want you to drop me or, sit me on the floor. At least we could put the chair down and you can sit me on the chair and take a break. When I tell you, man, that this guy, he carried me the entire way down the mountain, up the mountain, and to the place that we were able to get into the water. He put the life jacket on me, put me in the water, man, and sat with me in the water. And everybody that was passing by was clapping and cheering us on like, yay, they made it, they made it. And man, I tell you, it was one of the most gratifying and fulfilling moments of my life, because he stayed with me in the water for 20, 30 minutes. It was freezing cold too, I'll tell you. But then he carried me on his back all the way back out of the Blue Hole, up the mountain. Now going down is pretty easy, right? You would think. But going up is a lot more harder, right? Because you're going against gravity. So this man carried me all the way up top. And I tell you, man, when he sat me down, it was one of the most impactful moments in my life. That's why I wrote about it extensively in my book, because it was one of those things in life that where somebody, just one man showed another man compassion and some love and said, you know what, I want to help you to experience life. I want to help you to experience life. And, even when I tell that story, I get a little emotional sometimes. And his name is Devro, by the way. I always give him a shout out when I tell the story, because we still keep in touch to this day on Facebook. He lived in Jamaica, but he actually just recently moved to Canada. And we still keep in touch to this day. We inspire one another. We send each other messages. And that was one of those moments, man, where me and him are going to stay in touch to the day one of us dies, because it was such a life-changing experience. And it showed me that there's still people out there that have compassion on others, that there's still people out there that show love to one another. There's still people out there that are willing to help their fellow brethren, right? And so the simple fact that this man, he didn't have to ask me. He didn't have to volunteer his services. He didn't have to say, hey, you know what, I'll carry you and do extra work, right? And he did it, man. He did it. And he changed my life forever. It impacted me in such a way, because I'm like, man, if it wasn't for this guy, I would have never experienced that. I would never experience that. And because he did, I had an experience of my life. And I tell that everywhere I go. And it's just something so simple. If you think about it, right? If you think about it, if we just show compassion and love to our fellow brothers and sisters and help them to experience life, how much better off would this world be? And so that's why I do what I do, man. And that's why I love doing what I do, because if I can be that small beacon of light, just like this man was, he was a small light in my world, and he allowed me to experience life. So if I can do that for any person, anybody else, man, I will die a happy man. And I know that I've done that millions of times already, but I continue to do it because I know that there are people that are waiting for people like me to show up for life and waiting for people like you to show up for life.
That's a beautiful story, because I wanted people to hear, because our world right now, because politics, race, we are so divided. Sometimes we don't take the moment to help one another. And then, like you said, all it takes is it Devereaux, you said his name?
Devereaux, yep.
Yeah, I mean, the Devereaux in the world are out there who can make it like a better place for all of us. So we all have that in us. It just doesn't take that long. It just says, what can I do? How can I help? And if we did that for each other, I think this world will be a much, much better place than anything that we do. So personally, when was a moment where you said, okay, my life is not worth living. I am done. Was there a moment of that where you had a doubt, what you didn't want to get out of bed, embarrassed? I know you talked about it. And if you share a little bit about that moment, and then what helped you to really get out also of that situation?
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, I've never had a moment in my life where I wanted to give up.
Okay.
There's been times, let me rephrase that. There's been several times where I wanted to give up, but not on life. I wanted to give up like when I was working a job and I wouldn't get the promotion because I was being stereotyped, or even as an entrepreneur, when I first started my entrepreneurial journey and people were rejecting my offers and people were declining my invites. And, you know, that was a little discouraging. And there was times where I felt like giving up, like, man, maybe this isn't for me. But I never felt like giving up on life, if that's what you mean. If you felt like giving up on life, I never felt like that. Thank God that thought has never popped into my mind. Now, there were times where I was like, man, God, I don't want to live like this. If I'm going to live like this for the rest of my life, I'd rather you just take me home now. Like, there's a difference between not wanting to live and wanting to kill yourself, right? Commit suicide. Like I felt like I didn't want to live like this for my entire life. And I would tell God, like, God, if this is how I have to live, I don't want to live like this. Just take me home, because this isn't fair. This isn't fair to me. I shouldn't have to live my life like this. So I would have those moments, right? Yes. But I never once was like, oh, I want to kill myself because I'm tired of this. Never.
And all of us have that moment that you don't want to get out of bed, not reaching to suicide, but just saying, this is it. Why is this my life? Because right now, because of COVID, because of other things, people are just giving up on life, and they don't want to do that extra things, or they don't want to take a risk to do something else. You always have to put in forward, take the risk, and see what's on the other side. What is the saying? Everything that you want is on the other side of fear.
That's right.
So there's always that fear that block us or limit us, or there are people around us, they look at me at the limitation and says they don't put any expectation anymore, and we start believing what's surrounding us. So actually that would be a good segue. Who is it from a moment for yourself looked at you as a mentor, someone you say is like, I mean, this is not only your life, there is so much you can accomplish. Who did you look up to, or what is it the moment that your life really turned and say, this is not it, I'm meant to be, my God put me in this world to do something more than just being considered just sitting on a wheelchair? So what was that turning moment, and who is the kind of mentor that helped you to move into the next college chapter?
Yeah, so, you know, I was working in corporate America for 20 years, and I just got to the point where, you know, I don't have a college degree, but I have a ton of experience, right? I've been in corporate America for 20 years, so I have a lot of experience, but I don't have the college degree. So I just got really sick and tired of applying for promotions and getting declined and getting beat, basically, by the guy who had the piece of paper that said he went to college for 4 years, right? And so we all know what that looks like and what that feels like. But I kind of got tired of it, and so and it wasn't only that. I was doing something that wasn't really fulfilling me anymore. And because I started growing, I started learning, I started reading books, and I started to grow as a person, right? Like personal development. And so I knew that there was more that I could be doing than just sitting at a desk and doing computer and phone work, right? Whether it was sales or retention or whatever it was, I knew that I had more inside of me than just that. And so I said, okay, well, there's not a lot of things I can do that are physical. So I said, okay, well, what can you do? I said, well, I can still use my mind. I still have a sound mind, and I can still use my voice. So I just went on Google and I YouTubed motivational speaking. And when I YouTubed that, several people popped up, but one person in particular stuck out to me. And I resonated so much with his story because it was similar to mine, not in the aspect that they were in a wheelchair, but because they had to overcome adversity and overcome struggle and overcome pain and overcome discrimination. And that person, we all know, if you're watching, if you don't know, that's where me and you met. You saw me interview on his show, the great Les Brown, right? One of the top motivational speakers on the planet. And I started watching his YouTube and his social media and his website. And I just really followed everything he did and really studied him. And then I had the opportunity to meet him in person, which is another amazing story that I share in great detail in my book. So if you want to know that story, you got to get the book.
Yeah.
But long story short, I wound up meeting Les Brown at an event, and I gave him my speaker kit. And that was on a Wednesday in 2015, December. And then that Thursday, I go back to work. And I get a phone call, and I'm thinking it's from somebody who I was networking with, who just kind of following up with me. And it was Les Brown, called me the next day. And I was so excited, man, when I got that phone call. And when I heard his voice, I knew it was him, but I played it off like, who's this? And because he has one of those distinct voices, right? And so when I heard his voice, I knew
hungry.
Yeah. And so, you know, we had like an hour conversation while I was at work. I was on my lunch break, actually, and we had about an hour-long conversation. And then he told me to call him, you know, later on that night. He gave me his number, and we called. And ever since then, that was 5 years ago, and ever since then, we've been friends. He was my mentor before I even met him. But when I got to meet him, he became my personal mentor, like where I knew him. I had his phone number. We were calling each other. We did events together. He even invited me to come on tour with him 2 years ago. And we went on a tour, and you saw me on his Facebook Live the other day, and we've been doing this. He did the forward to my book, so you know he's an amazing man. I call him my spiritual pops. We have a great relationship. I just spoke to him today. Actually, he called me earlier today. We're going to be working on something really cool pretty soon. But yeah, Les Brown, man, was the only mentor that I've had. Was the first, not the only, but the first. Excuse me, the first mentor that I've had that really made an impact on my life.
I like that. Do you believe, I know sometimes we have this situation that we always believe, and I've heard you talk a little bit about it, like people can be born, call it in a wealthy family or different kind of things. And then we always consider that you have to be lucky to accomplish certain kind of things. You have a different view and a different explanation when it comes to luck. So what do you mean the difference between being lucky and then working hard to get where you need to be? So if you can go a little bit more on that, how do you explain luck?
Absolutely. You just listened to my recent podcast, huh?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, man. So I'm a firm believer that, you know, I don't believe in luck. First of all, to me, there's no such thing as luck. I believe in a thing called purpose, right? So it's like, I gave an example, like when I met my wife, right? We used to work together.
Yeah.
And some people see me and they say, man, you're so lucky to have such a beautiful wife, man. You know, and then this is the thing too, like people know I'm in a wheelchair and then they see me with such a smoking hot wife and they're like, man, how the heck did that happen? Right. And so, you know, it's like, man, you're so lucky. And I'm like, listen, man, it's not luck. I got that New York swag, baby, and that's what she fell in love with. That's what I tell her. But, you know, it wasn't luck, literally. Like, we were friends. We were co-workers. We became friends. And then, you know, I felt attracted to her, obviously. And then she felt attracted to me. And one thing led to the next. And I built up the courage to ask her to be my Valentine one year. And she said yes. And that was all she wrote. She was my Valentine. We had our first kiss there, and we've been together for 20 years, man. We just celebrated our 13th anniversary, but it wasn't luck, man. I had to put the work in. I had to make a move. I had to make something happen. Like, me and my wife would not be together today if I would have not had the boldness and the courageousness to go up to her and approach her and say, hey, would you be my Valentine? Right? That wouldn't have happened. Okay. Everything in life that is worth having takes work, not luck. people like to use luck as a way to mask the difficulty to get to what they want in life. Like, oh, I'm going to play the lotto because I'm going to get lucky, right? They try to mask the hard work that they need to put in to be able to have the money that they would get to win the lotto, right? To me, that's like an easy way out. Now, I'm not condemning anybody who plays the lotto, right? If you want to throw a couple bucks in and, take a chance, go right ahead. But at the same token, I want you to understand that in life, you have to, we've all heard it said that in life, it's not what you are, it's what you put in, right? You get what you put in, right? So you have to put in the work, no matter what it is in life, whether you want to be an entrepreneur, a business owner, run a company, climb the corporate ladder, find your Mr. Right or your Mrs. Perfect. You have to put in work. Like your favorite whatever is not going to fall in your lap. The thing you love most in life is not going to fall in your lap. The life that you want to live is not going to fall on. You're not going to get lucky and just get a house that's a mansion, right? You're not going to just get lucky and get a Rolls Royce Bentley, right? That doesn't happen by luck. That happens by work. You got to put in the work to get to what you want out of life. And when I learned that, right, I've always been a hustler. I've always been a worker. I've always been a grinder, and I've always worked for what I had. And a lot of times people will see me and they don't understand. Like my biggest dream in life was wondering if a woman was ever going to love me like this, or if I was going to have children, or if I was going to own a home, or if I was going to drive a car. But you know what, man? I have a wife and we have children and we own our own home, and I have my own car that's paid off. Like my wife and I have our own cars with no payment. And that's because we bust our butts to work for that. You know what I mean? It's not we were just lucky and now we're debt free. You know what I mean? That doesn't have debt freeness doesn't come by luck. It comes by work. You got to work towards that, man. And that goes with anything in life.
I hear you. When you are doing all of this and then accomplishing, sometimes people think like certain things are busy. We've talked about your wife a little bit. I want to share a video so people do understand that you have posted on your page. Let me see if I can play it, and then we can give the proper, call it gratitude for your wife. Let me see if we can do this. We're just going to watch just a little bit of your morning routine.
Now keep them up real high. Both of them, if you're feeling phenomenal today.
I love that the way your wife is not just a beautiful person, but an angel. Like for everything that she's been doing, she's next to you. You guys are doing it as a couple with your families. And then I didn't want people to look at, sometimes they look at you on stage, you're inspiring, you're going around the world, and sometimes they may not understand how difficult certain things might be. So how do you transition? First, let's give proper thanks to your wife. What does your wife means to you in this journey that you're going through? So let's talk a little bit about her, and then we'll jump on the next part.
Yeah, man, my wife, she's just the most amazing person that I know, man. Like literally the most amazing person that I know. She's the real rock star. She's the real MVP. She's the one who keeps the ship sailing, man. I'm telling you. And as you can see in that clip, man, every time I watch that clip, it gets me emotional because, I mean, let's just be honest, man. There's not a lot of women that are in line signing up to help men out in that way. There's just not, man. And that takes a special type of person with a special heart and a special mindset and a special attitude to be able to endure that. And that process that you all saw us go through right there, we go through that every single day, man. And we've been together for 20 years. So if you can imagine that and what that looks like, I mean, that alone already speaks volumes to her character and to the type of person that she is. She's truly an angel on earth, man. She's an angel sent from heaven. And I definitely wouldn't be doing what I'm doing without her. And she's just an amazing individual, man. I mean, I can go on and on about how awesome she is. But like I said, I get emotional every time I talk about it because that was my main dream, man. That was my main dream. Like, I didn't want to be a millionaire. I didn't want to have the big house. And I mean, I wanted that, right? Who doesn't? But my main thing was I just wanted a woman who was going to ride out with me until the end of time, man. And through the grace of God, he's blessed me with a beautiful wife. Shout out to Mrs. Inspires, Andrea Flores. She's a real rock star, and I love her so much. And I always take a few moments everywhere I go, to honor her, because it's because of her that I get to do what I'm doing, because there's nobody else coming to my house to get me out of bed like that. You know what I mean? Nobody else is saying, "Hey, Jose, you want me to come over and help you? Hey, Jose, you need me to come help you out the bed, get you dressed?" Nobody else is signing up for that, man. Nobody else is volunteering for that. So I give her all the credit where credit is due, and I give her all the props and the honor because, like I said, if it wasn't for her, man, I wouldn't even be on this show with you right now because I'd be still in bed waiting for somebody to help me out.
It was an honor talking to her just before we started the show too, and that's why I wanted the world to see, like, always take that unity that going, because you do have also a book coming up, but you're working on a marriage. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So what does success mean? Actually, that's a good segue that we can talk a little bit about that, because a lot of people spend traveling money, they look at all that. For Jose, what does success mean?
Success looks different for different people. To me, what I believe success is when you get to a point in life where you are at complete peace, you are at complete happiness, and you are filled with joy. To me, that is success, because you can be a billionaire like Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett or Ma Young, right? From Japan, the CEO of Alibaba. You can be a billionaire and have all the bells and whistles there is to life. But if you don't have peace, love, joy, and happiness, to me, that's not success. No. So to me, like, I always tell my wife, like, we even if we didn't have the house and the car and the ability to travel, if it was just me and you, baby, to the end of time, I would be the most happiest man on the planet. That's all I would need. You could take everything else away from me, but me and you together somewhere, we're going to make it.
Absolutely. That's a good way, like I said, to honor what you're getting. And like you said, you were not lucky. You worked hard, and we're all glad that you made that move and asked her to be your Valentine. And then look where you are. So people are not taking risk. So speaking of, we talked about it, segue, and then when people are looking at certain things and then all they see in front of them is the no part, or is the I can't. But moving forward, there is always something better on the other side. If you don't try it, you'll never know. What is the saying? The shot that you don't take, you're always going to miss. But out of the 10 shots, you may be able to get 2 and or whatever, but do not take. It's a guarantee that you're never going to make that. So what do you say to the people who are watching and saying they are too afraid to make the next move, or they already have this limitation, or people around them, like I said earlier, I'll tell them, this is not for you, that you cannot do it. So how do you move people from that stuck mindset to the yes mindset?
Yeah, well, the word no stands for next opportunity. Next opportunity. So when somebody says no, you just say, okay, on to the next opportunity. One of my other mentors, Willie Jolly, I don't know if you know who he is, but Willie Jolly is another professional speaker, great individual. He always says that when he was in sales and somebody would tell him no, he would say, okay, next, right? And again, next opportunity. And so that's all you have to understand is like, and again, when I was starting on entrepreneurship, I would take those no's and feel so much discouragement. Like, oh man, am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? But it's not that they're saying no because they're rejecting you. It's just saying no because they may not be a good fit for you, right? Not everybody's going to be a good fit for you. And when you understand that concept, right, that not everybody's going to buy your products. Not everybody's going to buy your book. My story isn't going to resonate with everyone. Right? Not everyone's going to relate to my story, but there's going to be some people that it will relate to. And those are the people that I need to find. So the ones that it doesn't resonate to, the ones that it doesn't fit with, I'm okay with that, because I know that just means that they're not a good fit for me, or I might not be a good fit for them. And I'm all right with that. I'll just go on to the next. Like in sales, they train you to know that like if somebody says no, you don't spend too much time with them. You go on to the next prospect because you want to get to that yes. So the quicker you can get to that next yes, the quicker you're going to experience those smaller wins or maybe bigger wins. And that's going to eventually build momentum in your life or in your business. And you're going to continue to want to get those wins. And you're going to continue doing everything that you need to do to ensure that you keep on winning in life.
Okay. I think speaking about resonating, there was a story on one of your podcasts I heard where a mother called you and her son was not doing well, that she wanted you to talk to him. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, how it helped that young child or adult, I don't know how old he was. What is it that you were able to say to him to help him, but his mom or someone else was not able to help him?
Yeah, so this individual, he was recently in a car accident, and he became paralyzed from the neck down. So, I can't relate to that because I'm not paralyzed. I can still feel everything and I can still move everything. It's just atrophied, which means weak. So this individual he doesn't have any feeling at all from the neck down. He said he had a little feeling in one of his arms that he was still able to move slightly. But, he was in a difficult place and his mom couldn't really get to him. He was so angry and upset, you know what I mean? Because it's a traumatic experience. Now he has to live a different life. So she had reached out to me on social media asking me if I wouldn't mind taking a few moments to speak to him. And I get these kind of requests all the time, man. Like a lot of parents and even like some husband and wives, they'll call me like if one of their spouses has gotten into an accident and now they're in a wheelchair. They reach out to me because, you need that support. I wished, man, when I was younger and going through what I was going through, I wished I would have been courageous enough to sign up for one of those support groups, because I'm a firm believer in support, man. And those things really work, because just imagine you going through something and nobody around you, you feel like nobody around you understands where you're coming from. You feel like nobody around you can relate to what you're going through because they're not in your situation. So your first response is, oh, you don't know what I'm going through. Some people will say like, oh, I can only imagine. No, you can't imagine. You can't imagine. You can't even imagine what I'm going through because you're not living like I'm living. So you cannot even imagine. And what you are imagining is probably a false imagination of what the reality is. Or they'll say something like, oh, I know what you're going through. No, you don't know what I'm going through because you're not living like I'm living, right? So it's tough for people who are going through the storm to relate to other people who aren't in the storm with them per se. Like if you're a caregiver, like my wife, she's not in a wheelchair, but she's in the storm with me.
Yes.
Right? Because she has to deal with the struggle. Like she's not struggling with the specific struggle, right, of what it is of the wheelchair, but she's dealing with the person who's dealing with the struggle on a consistent basis. So, we have to show grace. That's why I love caregivers. My wife and I, we're actually going to start a nonprofit really soon that's going to focus on helping people that have certain situations that need medical equipment. And we're going to also be helping caregivers because caregivers don't get enough credit, man. They don't get enough credit. And it's those caregivers, it's like the unspoken ones. Like everybody sees me, they see me smiling, they see me looking good, they see me showing up sharp, and they don't see the video of what my wife has to do for me to show up like that. Right. And so that's why I always honor her, because the caregivers need the same amount of credit, if not more, because of what they do to help us experience life and continue to live life and live life to the full. That's why I love my wife. I'll do anything for her. But with that being said, going back to the story, I'm sorry I diverted a little bit. Okay. But this individual, I got on the phone with him, and I was like a fresher breath air to him, because now he's talking to somebody who knows what he's going through. Yeah. He's talking to somebody who's in his shoes per se, right? Not exactly, but we're in the same boat, right? We're in the same boat. And so I had a conversation with him, and I definitely, he definitely experienced a little breakthrough. And I'm glad that God was able to use me in that way, because he was able to share some things with me that only him and I can relate to, that only him and I know what it feels like. Right. And so, for example, nobody knows, if you're not going through it, nobody knows that if we have to use the bathroom, what that process looks like. Right? Nobody knows that.
Nobody knows that.
Bathroom, they do their thing, they go in, they go out, and they never even think twice about it. For us, it's man, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom and I need help. Right? And so, I was able to talk to him about some things, and he definitely felt great. I felt great that I was able to even be used and help him in that way. And he was laughing. I could hear him laughing. I'll tell a couple jokes, because I'm a pretty funny guy, I like to think. And I told a couple jokes, and we were laughing on the phone. He was crying a little bit. I started getting a little emotional. But at the end of the day, man, we both left, and we both felt like rock stars. And we keep in touch now, man. He reaches out to me. I check in with him every so often, and he's doing great. Time heals all wounds, right? So it's the same. And so I told him, I said, listen, man, I know you're angry. I know you hate everybody right now. I know you're frustrated, and I know you're overwhelmed. But I said, it will get a little bit easier as you go along. Not that it's going to be completely easy, and I don't say that because let me be clear, there's nothing easy about living life in a wheelchair. There's nothing easy about it, but it gets easier when you're able to develop the proper mindset, when you're able to develop a positive mental attitude, right? When you're able to develop an attitude of gratitude and be thankful for the things that you're still alive, and that you have family, or you have friends, or you have, people that you can call. And so when you're able to develop that type of mindset, it puts you in a different bracket now, to where it makes living life in a wheelchair just a little bit more easier, because now you have a right perspective, you have the right mindset, you have the right attitude, and now you can go forward living life with the brand new transformed you. Even though you have to use a wheelchair, it just makes it a little easier when you have a proper attitude to go along with it.
I like that. Actually, maybe you can add a little bit more, because with the hat and the t-shirt that you're wearing, the mindset disruptor. So how did you come up? I like that title so much. Said I'm gonna get that hat. So how did you come up with that title, or what does it mean for you?
Well, it's funny how I came up with the title. I was having like a branding brainstorm session with some friends of mine, and shout out to Forbes Riley. I don't know if you know who Forbes Riley is, but she's known as the infomercial queen. She's been on HSN and QVC. And she sold over $2 billion worth of products. And we were having a brainstorming session with branding, and she said, "You know what you are? You're a freaking mindset disruptor, man. You disrupt people's mindsets." And I was like, "Wow, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I am a mindset disruptor." So I just ran with it, man, and ever since then, I've been the mindset disruptor because, that's what I do. I disrupt people's normal ways of thinking. And that's a great thing. I want to disrupt people's minds because a lot of people, with this whole COVID thing, everybody's like, man, I can't wait for things to get back to normal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? How can you say that? Because going back to normal for a lot of people, that means going back to mediocrity, going back to average, going back to living life the same old, same old. And you shouldn't want to go for things to go back to normal. You should have been creating a new normal for yourself during this pandemic so that when it gets a little better and we get to go out and go attack life again, and you can still attack life now, but you just have to get creative with it, right? But the thing is that you want to be able to disrupt the normal, right? You want to just, like, people see me in a wheelchair and they automatically disqualify me, and they have all these stereotypes and all these judgments about me. But once they get to know me and they get to have a conversation with me, I disrupt that thought in their mind. That this whole disqualification thing that they thought about Jose gets disrupted. That whole he's incapable thing, it gets disrupted. That he's not qualified, it gets this. So I disrupt it, and they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's amazing. I want to get to know more of this guy. I'm going to share this quick story. I was at the post office one time recently I was shipping out a bunch of books, and when I was there, everybody's panicking about the COVID, social distancing, 6 feet. You got to put your mask on and everything. So I go into the post office, and the workers didn't even want to come from around the table to help me. Like, they were really hesitant. And so I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm in a wheelchair. Can't you see that? I need help. So anyway, this one other lady who was in line, she helped me out. She wound up being very friendly with me, very helpful. And she actually wound up kind of telling those people off, like, in a nice way, but telling them, like, how dare you not help this guy? And then come to find out afterwards, when we were walking out together, she was like, man, I really got upset and angry because I can feel a little bit of what you have to go through, because I had an accident not too long ago and I was in a wheelchair for several months. And so I know what it feels like to have to depend on people and need help. And the fact that they were hesitant to help you really upset me. And that's why I reacted like that. And I was like, no, I understand that. And I appreciate you helping me out. And she was almost like surprised that I wasn't as upset as she was.
She was.
But it's because I already know, like, I've already developed a mindset that understands that not everybody's going to have the same level of understanding or compassion as I have, right? So I'm not going to let anyone rob me of my joy. I'm not going to let anyone upset me or have control over my emotions, right? I control that. No one else does. And so anyhow, I wound up giving her my information. She actually, I didn't even know she did this, but in the back of my wheelchair right here on my headrest, I'll just spin around real quick so you can see it. It says Jose Inspires.
Uh-huh.
That's like the best form of marketing that my wife came up with, right? She was like, we need to put that out there. We need to brand that. And so she saw that. She took a picture of that while she was behind me in line. And so like a week later, she reaches out to me on Facebook and she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were such an important person. It's like, I'm so honored to have been able to help you. And, she's kind of like going on and on with that. And I was just so grateful that, she was there to be able to help me, and that she recognized how these people were acting towards me, and she sprung into action. But I say all of that, man, to say this, that, when you see people who are out there that are needing help, and it goes back to the devil out there, right? If you want to be that devil out there, man, you have to be willing to be compassionate and understanding and patient with other people and what they're going through in life, because you don't know what they're going through.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That brings us to your book that you have, and I love this title. Don't let your struggle become your standard. How to be indispensable even when the odds are stacked against you. Just by itself, just reading that title, I think so many people can be touched and healed about it. So why people need to get this book? If you can tell us what's in it. And I know you have even added a little bit tool in there where people can scan and get a video of you talking. So why would anybody, first tell us about how you came up with the title, and then why should we be getting this book?
Yeah, so I came up with the title because, you know, I know what struggle is, man. I live it every day, right? I know what it is and I know how to overcome it. And I know that everyone else out there in the world, every single person out there has their own struggle that they're going through, that they're dealing with, that they're trying to overcome. And I wanted to be that person that can help them overcome that. And I wanted to let them know that, because a lot of times when a tragedy strikes or something happens in our lives and that was unexpected or something that we didn't ask for, and we begin to go through a struggle, we have a tendency of settling there and accepting what life gives us, right? We let life happen to us. And so I wanted to let everybody know that they don't have to let their struggle become their standard. Like, they don't have to let that be their standard. They can overcome that. They can raise the bar and set a new standard and overcome it and truly live the life that they want to live. And they talk about how to be indispensable even when the odds are stacked against you. So when you see the picture and you see me with a wheelchair, you say, wow, this guy definitely has some odds stacked against him, right? But when you start to read the story and you start to understand that my parents divorced when I was 2 years old, my dad died when I was 10, I end up in a wheelchair when I'm 22, you kind of like, man, that's some horrible odds that are stacked against this guy. Like, that's the perfect formula for you to throw the towel in and give up on life, right? And so, but I didn't. Right? I kept on pushing. I kept on fighting. I didn't let my struggle become my standard. And because I didn't let my struggle become my standard, I get to become the person that I am today. And every day I'm growing and becoming an even better version of myself. And I get to inspire and impact millions of lives all across the globe, because I didn't, you know, when you start to understand that life isn't happening to you, that it's happening for you, it changes the dynamic of how you live your life. So I was that type of person, like many other people out there, that was like, why is this happening to me? But when I changed it to, this is actually happening for me, and you see how it changes? Just that little shift, just that little change in vocabulary, like, this isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. What can I learn from this? What can I understand from this? Who can I become because of this? Right? So now my character is changing. My personality is changing. My mindset is changing. My attitude is changing. Everything is changing, and I'm becoming a better version of myself. And every single day that I wake up, I'm always learning and growing and becoming a better version of myself. And the more that we can continue to do that, the more better you're going to be off in whatever sphere of influence that you have, whether it's in your family, your community, your neighborhood, your church, your job, wherever you go. When you start to grow and improve yourself, it's going to rub off on everyone else that's around you.
Hallelujah to that. I like that, because we all focus usually on what we don't have, and we forget on what we have and what can we do with what we have, because God gave us whatever he gave us, and he wants us to use those tools that he gave us. And then, but we're always focusing on something that we don't have, and we waste our time, and we're always thinking about tomorrow instead of the present. I love that. So it's definitely, and I love your podcast, because I know you're also on podcast, and the title, I won't stop until I win.
That's right.
So that's another title. I mean, you have all these catchy phrases that come up. It does definitely help. So what does it mean, I won't stop until I win?
It just means that you got to keep going no matter what happens in life. No matter what, I won't stop until I win. People ask me all the time, like Jose, like Les Brown calls me the motivator to the motivators, right? So I'm like always high level. My energy is always high level. My attitude is always high level. And so when I have my bad days, people always ask me like, well, what do you do to get over your days when you have your bad days? And I'm like, first of all, I rarely have a bad day. You can ask my wife. She's the first one to tell you, like, he really never has a bad day. And I really don't. But there are times where I do, right? I'm human, and I do have my days where I'm not feeling 100%. And so on those days, man, I go back to that phrase, and I'm like, you can't stop until you win, Jose. You can't stop until you win. Your wife is counting on you. Your kids are counting on you. There's people that you show up for life every day on social media. When you go to events, people are depending on you to show up for them. Yeah. And so that alone, when I wake up and I'm feeling down and I know that I'm letting somebody down if I don't show up for life, that doesn't sit well with me. So that pushes me to keep moving. Even sometimes when I'm in pain, man, because like I said, I'm not paralyzed. There's sometimes, very seldom, but there's sometimes where my ankles get swollen, my feet get swollen from sitting in the chair for, right now it's 9 p.m. I've been in the chair since 7 a.m. this morning. So that's already going on 14 hours in the chair. So I've been in a wheelchair for 14 hours. My ankles are probably swollen, right? And when I wake up sometime in the morning, my feet hurt a little bit, right? So I have a special bed that elevates the feet, and I don't want to get out of bed. But then that thought pops into my mind, like there's somebody expecting you to show up today. And I'm like, oh man, I got to get up. And so I get up anyhow, man, even though I'm not in complete pain, but I'm in a little discomfort, I still get up and I'm in my chair all day long. And because I've learned how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and not because of myself. Like, I don't do this for me, man. Like I don't get paid to get on social media and put videos and inspire and motivate people. I do that because that's what I love doing. I get paid to go out and speak for corporations and events and selling books and my products and services. But I don't get paid to go on social media. But I do that because I know that there's people that are counting me to show up and inspire them and motivate them and give them the hope, right? Like, I'm a messenger of hope, man. We live in a hopeless world. In reality, we live in a hopeless world. So people are looking for messages of hope. Like, hey, I need hope. Do you have hope? And when I show up in a wheelchair and my big old smile, I'm like, yes, baby, hope is alive and well. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Because you do a lot of things. We're almost approaching to the end of our show. I want people to know because I know for me, your podcast have helped me a lot. And then you do other personnel one-on-one coaches. So if someone wants to work with you and they want to reach out to you, what are the ways to get to you?
Yeah, you can either go to my website. It's real simple, joseinspires.com. You can send me a private message or a DM on social media at joseinspires, or you can shoot me an email at info@joseinspires.com. And the easiest way to get a hold of me is social media. I'm very active and I'm very engaging. I'm very present. So that's the easiest way, but you can go to my website, or like I said, you can email me. Either way, there's a phone number as well on my social media that they can call into as well and reach out to me for coaching, for my products and services. My book just made the #1 bestseller list in Spanish because I just had it translated to Spanish. So it's a #1 bestseller now. I'm super excited about that. But I also have a course that helps people write their stories. Like, I help people to develop and craft a powerful, compelling story that is going to captivate the audience. And so if you have a story that you've been wanting to share and put it in a book format, I have a course for that as well. And there's some other courses. I have another course that's called the Mindset Takeover Mastery. So if you want to take over your mind, right, before you can take over anything else you want in life, you got to take over your mind first. So I have a course, the Mindset Takeover Mastery, and that's real simple. They can go to my website or mindsettakeover.com to sign up for that as well. And yeah, man, I'm here to serve, man. So if there's any way that I can help serve somebody, or if you're looking for one-on-one coaching, that's not really promoted on my website, but I do offer that. So you can just reach out to me again directly, and we'll work it out.
I like that. We will put that link at the end of the show for people to be able to reach you. So we are at the end of the show. I'm really inspired. Jose, thank you very much for taking your time. Just like you said, you've been on the wheelchair for 14 hours and giving us this moment of your life. I really, really thank you, brother, for this, because you do inspire a lot. So I want to leave you with like I said, a last word to give you so that you can say, there are people right there struggling, and could be of disability, could be mental, could be anything, something that is like really stopping them for really fulfilling their full potential. So what message would you have with those people? If you can look at them directly and speak to those people directly, what message would you have with everything that you have gone through and been able to accomplish? You are qualified to share those advices.
Absolutely. If you're watching this or you're listening to this and you're going through a challenge, or you're going through an adversity, or you feel like your back is against the wall, even with COVID, I know COVID has done a lot of damage to people's mental health, and not only physical health, but mental health. So if you just feel like you're in a position and you're in a situation or a circumstance where you feel like there's no way out, I want to let you know, like my podcast says, don't stop until you win. Don't stop until you win. And you don't have to let your struggle become your standard, because you were created on purpose and for purpose. And if you don't know what that is, reach out to me. I would love to help you figure out what that is, because we're all born on purpose and for purpose. And, they say that there's 2 important days of our lives: the day that we were born, and the second is the day that we find out why. And that's purpose. And most people go through life not knowing what their purpose is, not knowing what they're supposed to be doing, and not knowing what they really want out of life. I just did an event event the other day and I asked the audience, how many of you by showing hands really know what you want out of life? And only a few people raised their hands, and I'm speaking to a group of adults. So you can see how there's so many people that are struggling in that area. So if you're struggling out there, I want you to know that hope is alive and well. I am a testimony of that. And if I can do it, I know without a shadow of a doubt, that you can do it as well, that you can push through, that you can overcome, that you can conquer, and that you can live your best life now, just like I am. So I pray that God will continue to give you wisdom and guidance and discernment, and that you will receive whatever healing or blessing or favor that you're in search of. And I just pray that, remember, you got to put in the work. It's not going to fall on your lap. You have to put in the work. And that's the part that people don't like. They don't like to do the extra work. If you want to be ordinary, then you can do ordinary work. But if you want to be extraordinary, you have to do a little extra, right?
I love that. I mean, for me, I've also been inspired by one of my friends. Her name is Mulatu, who's going through breast cancer, but she turned that around and helping others. We did a march. There are so many things that she's been able to help all of us, and it didn't stop her. So she used what she's going through to heal and help other people. And then I see you're another person that whatever happened to you, you used it, you turned it around, and you went after life. To show not only to help yourself and your family, but to help so many other people out there. So I thank you for that. May the Lord bless you more, and then we'll hear more, and hopefully we'll have you back again on the show, because this is definitely an inspiration, especially during this difficult time.
I also wanted to do something special for you and your audience and your listeners, man. In the spirit of, of giving back, and I know COVID has affected a lot of people, I have a free gift for you and your audience. 0 strings attached, no strings attached. It's just a thank you from me to you to keep pushing on, to keep moving forward, and to not stop until you win in your own life. So if you want to put this in the comments later on, you can just go to freegift.joseinspires.com. That's freegift.joseinspires.com, and you'll get the free gift sent to your email immediately.
Thank you, Jose. That's definitely gracious of you. So viewers, this is Yoftahe and Jose. I know at least one person has been healed and really understood the message from here. We all go through struggles. For some of us, it's very visual. It could be like a wheelchair, but for most people, sometimes it's unspoken, it's inside, it's mental. Reach out. Don't think like you're going through this world by yourself. A lot of us are going through just coming out and speaking about it. Let's use social media or other things to be able to express and just say, I need help. So this is not a world that we have to go through by ourselves. We have people like Jose who can and willing to help, and he has shared his life story with us. So I want to thank you again, Jose, and I want to thank your wife for this time. Once again, this is Yoftahe Gabru. Please share and comment what Jose's gift that he gave us. We'll put it in the link later on for people to be able to address it. So until we meet again on Saturday, I'll be bringing you regarding about dementia and Alzheimer's. A lot of our elderly parents are going through, and we talked about the caregivers who are taking care of the elderly, also what they are going through. So Saturday at 12 noon Eastern time. Until I see you then, this is Yoftahe Mulatu Gabru with Jose Flores, and I wish you good luck and see you next time. Thank you, Jose, again.
Thank you. God bless you. Take care.
God bless you all.